I met Lena in the fall of 2013 at a mutual friend's engagement party in Tacoma. I didn't even want to go, if I'm honest. I'd just wrapped a brutal project at work and had planned on a quiet weekend with beer and backlog shows. But my friend Dan practically dragged me out of the house, saying I'd been too much of a hermit lately. Looking back now, I'm glad he did. Lena was standing by the fireplace when I first saw her, laughing with two women I didn't recognize. She wasn't loud or flashy, just grounded, confident. She had this effortless way of talking that drew people in. We ended up next to each other while waiting for drinks in the kitchen, and she made a dry joke about how the host forgot to chill the wine. I laughed, we started talking, and never really stopped. She told me she worked in HR, had lived in Seattle most of her adult life, and loved hiking but hated camping. I was the opposite, didn't mind roughing it, but had zero sense of direction. I remember we stood there until the party died down, just the two of us leaning on opposite counters, like we'd known each other longer than a couple hours. When I offered to walk her to her car, she looked surprised. "Most guys don't offer that anymore," she said. That line stuck with me. We started dating soon after. It was natural, easy, no games, no guessing. Just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. We took things slow, not out of hesitation, but because we both had lives we liked, careers, hobbies, routines. But before long, we found ourselves making space for one another. She introduced me to new recipes. I introduced her to NFL Sundays. We met each other's families, did holidays together, made each other laugh more often than not. It felt balanced, like we were building something worth keeping. In 2015, we moved in together. A quiet little rental house with uneven floors and a broken fence out back. I fixed what I could, and she made it feel like home. That was Lena. Give her a little, and she'd build something out of it. The kitchen became our favorite place to be. We'd cook together most nights. She liked doing sauces and seasoning. I handled the chopping and prep. We were a team. We got married 2 years later. Nothing over the top. A backyard ceremony at her cousin's house with around 40 guests, strings of lights, and a taco truck. That's how Lena wanted it. Casual, intimate, with zero pressure. I love that about her. She knew what mattered and didn't bother with the rest. Today, we live just outside Seattle, in a 3-bedroom house we bought together in 2019. I work in software development, mostly remote now. Lena's still in HR. She recently switched companies and does 3 days a week from home. She says the flexibility helps her focus. We split chores without keeping score, binge-watch cooking shows, and argue about which playlist to put on while we clean. It's domestic, maybe even boring to some people, but it feels solid, real. We don't have kids, not by design, but not by pressure either. Life just unfolded the way it did, and we never felt like something was missing. We've built something simple and steady, and for a long time, I thought that was everything I needed. If I had to describe our life in one word, I'd probably say comfortable. And I don't mean that in a dull or passionless way. I mean it in the sense that we fit. Our routines had a rhythm to them, one we didn't have to speak out loud. I'd wake up around 6:30, make coffee, black for me, oat milk and 1 sugar for her, and head out to the porch to breathe for a few minutes before logging in for work. Lena was never far behind. She usually wandered into the kitchen in one of her oversized t-shirts, hair in a loose bun, scrolling through emails while she waited for the kettle to boil. We weren't the couple who texted all day or overshared every detail. We gave each other space. When she worked from home, she preferred the dining table, spread out with her laptop, color-coded pens, and a candle burning next to her. I stayed in the spare room, which doubled as my office, with my headphones on and the cat usually asleep on the window ledge. We'd check in around lunch, sometimes eat together, sometimes not. There was an ease to it that I appreciated more than I probably said out loud. Weeknights were low-key. I cooked more than she did. She admitted early on that she never really liked cooking, but she'd always keep me company in the kitchen. Sometimes she read while I chopped vegetables. Other times she danced around to whatever playlist she was into that week. She made the house feel alive in a way I never could on my own. Even in her silence, she had a presence that made the room feel full. After dinner, we'd usually curl up on the couch. She liked documentaries and legal thrillers. I liked old action flicks and dry comedies. We met in the middle most nights with something we could both live with. She had a habit of falling asleep halfway through, head on my shoulder, hand on my arm. I never minded. Those quiet evenings were some of the best parts of my week. Weekends were for errands, house projects, and a standing Sunday morning ritual. Coffee and cinnamon rolls from the cafe down the street. We'd sit by the window, watch people walk their dogs, and talk about everything and nothing. Sometimes we made plans for the week. Other times we just existed side by side. That kind of quiet companionship, it doesn't get enough credit. People chase grand gestures and fiery passion, but there's something underrated about simply enjoying someone's presence day after day. We took a few short trips every year, coastal drives, weekend cabins, once even a road trip to Montana, just because we were bored and had time off. Lena was the planner. She liked finding quirky airboms and local spots to check out. I was the driver and navigator. We made a good team. We always had. Our families got along well enough. Her mom was a bit overbearing, but nothing unmanageable. My parents adored her. My younger sister once told me, "She's the kind of person who makes people feel like they matter." I agreed. She was magnetic when she wanted to be, thoughtful, organized, always remembered birthdays, and brought a bottle of wine to every dinner. 12 years in, I really thought we had it figured out. Not perfect, just steady, solid. And in today's world, that felt rare enough to be grateful for. Looking back now, what stands out the most wasn't the big moments, the vacations or anniversaries. It was the way our life just fit together in the ordinary, quiet spaces. That's what made me trust it so completely. There were no glaring red flags, no big fights, no long silences that stretched into something dangerous. We communicated well, or at least I thought we did. I never felt like I had to chase her attention or earn her affection. She gave it freely, in ways that felt genuine. Lena was always good with people. She could navigate conversations like she'd studied them. Never too much, never too quiet. In social settings, she was magnetic. People gravitated toward her, and I never felt out of place in her glow. If anything, it made me proud. I liked being the one she chose to come home with at the end of the night. I liked the way she'd touch my arm during conversations or squeeze my hand under the table, like we were in on something no one else knew. She had this energy, not in an over-the-top way, but something warm and centered. The kind of person who could walk into a messy room and somehow calm it without saying a word. Our home reflected that. It wasn't just organized, it was thoughtful. Little things, framed postcards from trips we took, blankets that matched the seasons, an endless rotation of candles she insisted changed the mood of the house. It always felt like she cared about our space, not just how it looked, but how it felt. We talked about the future sometimes. Not in some ultra-detailed, 5-year plan kind of way, but with intention. We had savings goals. We talked about possibly getting a dog, maybe even moving somewhere quieter when things settled down. Kids came up occasionally, not often, and neither of us pushed. It wasn't off the table, just not urgent. Life felt full already, and we were happy. At least I was. She supported me in the ways that counted. When I switched teams at work and started reporting to someone half my age, she talked me through the transition. When my dad had a health scare last year, she was the one who took over the housework and brought me coffee while I sat in the hospital waiting room. She showed up, consistently, and I never once had to wonder if I was in this alone. I remember a night last summer, just the two of us on the back patio, drinking cheap wine and listening to an old playlist we used to play when we first moved in together. It was warm, but not hot. The sky was this perfect kind of dark where you could just barely make out the stars. We didn't talk much. She leaned into me, resting her head on my shoulder, and I thought to myself, this is what people mean when they say they feel at peace. That's what she was to me. Peace. So no, I didn't see anything coming. There was no warning. No shift I could point to. No unraveling that I noticed. If anything, I thought we were stronger than ever. It started with little things. Not dramatic changes, just shifts. The kind you don't notice at first until they start stacking up. I'm a creature of habit, so I tend to pick up on small details. And lately, something about Lena's patterns has been off. She's been spending more time out of the house. Not in a way that screams anything, just more running errands, more grabbing coffee with a friend, more days where she works from a cafe instead of home. And sure, none of that is strange on its own. But what caught me off guard was how vague she's been about it. Lena used to narrate her days without even thinking. Who she met, what they talked about, what annoyed her at work. Now, when I ask how her day was, I get short answers. Busy. Fine. Nothing special. It's not cold, just thinner. Like there's less of her being offered up. A week ago, she said she had lunch plans with a coworker. I asked who, and she said, "Oh, just someone from my old office," and then changed the subject. That stuck with me, because normally, she'd say a name, give context, tell a story. She's never been secretive. So why now? Then there's the phone. She's on it more, texting, checking notifications, even when we're watching something together. She used to toss her phone on the coffee table and forget about it. Now it's always face down beside her or in her lap. I noticed she changed her passcode recently. Not that I'd ever checked her phone, I never needed to. But we used to know each other's codes in that casual, "what's mine is yours" way. One night, I picked it up to check the time, and she reached for it quickly, saying, "I've got it." Again, not alarming, but different. The hardest part is that I don't know what I'm reacting to. There's no fight, no confession, no obvious lie. Just a slow pulling away. And the worst part? She's still kind. Still affectionate in the ways she always was. A kiss goodbye in the morning, a hand on my back as she walks past, a smile when I bring her tea in the evenings. But it's like she's performing it now, like she's maintaining a version of our life rather than living in it. I haven't said anything. I haven't pried. I don't want to turn into someone suspicious over nothing. I keep telling myself that maybe she's just stressed or going through a weird phase. Everyone's allowed to have an off month. Relationships aren't perfect. People don't always move in sync. I repeat all of that to myself like a prayer. But late at night, lying awake while she breathes steadily beside me, I can't shake the feeling that something's shifting between us. And for the first time in 12 years, I'm not sure I know what's really going on in her world. It's strange how a relationship can look fine from the outside while quietly shifting underneath. That's what the past few weeks have felt like. Not a blow-up, not even a real argument, just a slow, quiet drift. The kind you only notice when you realize you've been talking less, touching less, feeling less connected, and you're not sure when it started. Lena's been keeping busy. Busier than usual, honestly. More appointments. More outings. More, "I'm meeting someone for lunch," or "I've got a quick thing to take care of." None of it seems suspicious by itself. I mean, she's always been social and independent. I've never been the type to track her whereabouts or question her schedule. But now I find myself looking at the clock when she's out, wondering who she's with, and why it doesn't feel like something I'm invited to ask about anymore. There's also been a shift in how she carries herself at home. She used to wander around in her comfortable clothes, no makeup, hair messy, like she was completely herself around me. Lately, she's more polished. Even when she's just running errands, she puts on full makeup, fixes her hair, picks out clothes that are just a little more styled than usual. She brushes it off when I comment on it. "I just feel better when I put in a little effort," she says. And sure, maybe that's all it is. Maybe I'm reading into something that isn't there. But the distance isn't just physical. It's conversational. She's stopped volunteering information. We still talk, of course, about groceries, bills, work stuff. But I don't hear about her day the way I used to. There's no more little stories, the kind that made her laugh at herself, or vent about a coworker, or share something random she overheard in line at the coffee shop. That kind of chatter used to be constant. Now, it's like her day begins and ends without me in it. I don't want to be the guy who invents problems because things feel too quiet. I'm aware that long-term relationships change. The fire turns to a flicker sometimes, and you learn to keep it burning in quieter ways. But this feels different. It's like she's in another room emotionally, and I can't find the door to join her. We still sleep in the same bed, but even our bodies seem to avoid each other now. We haven't been intimate in over a month. No tension, no rejection, just nothing. Like we both stopped reaching without realizing it. Last Saturday, I suggested we take a drive to the coast, just for the day, something we used to love doing. She smiled politely and said she had some work to catch up on. I didn't push. I just went out alone for a few hours, drove with the windows down, and tried to convince myself I was imagining all of this. That I was stressed, that I was projecting. But there's a voice in the back of my head that won't quiet down. It keeps whispering, "Pay attention." Still, I haven't done anything about it. I haven't checked her phone. I haven't followed her. I haven't asked any direct questions. Maybe because deep down, I still want to believe this is just a weird season. A rut. A temporary fog will eventually move through. But that feeling, that gnawing sense that I'm being left out of something, it's becoming harder to ignore. It's getting harder to tell myself this is just a rough patch. I've gone from noticing small changes to feeling the full weight of them in every room of the house. It's not that Lena and I are fighting. We're not. In fact, that's part of what makes it so disorienting. There's no obvious conflict, no dramatic blow-ups. Just an eerie sort of quiet between us. Like we're both living on the surface of something that used to run deeper. I've been trying not to assign meaning to every silence, every deflection, every late return home, but at a certain point, it starts to wear on you. She came home late again last Thursday. Said she lost track of time after dinner with her old friend Joanna. I didn't question it, just nodded and offered her a glass of water. She smiled, thanked me, and then disappeared into the bedroom. When I came in after finishing dishes, she was already under the covers, eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. I know the rhythm of her breath when she's really out. That wasn't it, but I didn't say anything. I just climbed into bed and stared at the ceiling until sleep finally caught up to me sometime past 2 in the morning. And it's not just nights. It's the whole shape of our days that feels unfamiliar. The warmth she used to bring into the house, the casual affection, the way she used to check in throughout the day, the spontaneous little things, it's all faded. She still talks to me, of course, but only about what's necessary. Schedules, groceries, bills, logistics. Everything else feels like it's happening in a world I'm not part of. I keep reaching for her in subtle ways, asking how her day went, suggesting little date ideas, offering to make her favorite dinner. And while she never outright rejects me, she responds with this mechanical kind of politeness. The kind of response you give a stranger who's trying to be nice. Last weekend, we had dinner with her sister and brother-in-law. We used to enjoy those get-togethers, laughing, teasing, feeling like part of a close-knit circle. But this time, Lena barely looked at me the entire evening. She was animated, charming even, with everyone else. But when she spoke to me, it was like I was someone she'd just met. Her voice was lighter, her attention distant. It wasn't until the drive home, in the silence between us, that I realized I felt lonelier with her in the car than I do when I'm alone. I've caught myself doing things I never used to do, rereading old texts between us, looking at photos from a few years ago, even scrolling through her Instagram late at night, trying to find, I don't know what, proof that I'm not imagining this shift, or maybe reassurance that the version of her I remember is still in there somewhere. It's not jealousy. It's not control. It's fear. Fear that I'm losing something and that I won't even know how or when it happened until it's already gone. The worst part is that I haven't talked to anyone about this. Not a friend, not family, not even in vague terms. Because once I speak it out loud, even just a piece of it, it becomes real. Right now, it still exists in that murky space between suspicion and denial. I keep thinking maybe I'm being overly sensitive, that I'm reacting to a feeling that has nothing to do with her and everything to do with my own insecurities. And yet, when I sit in our living room in the evenings, the silence between us is no longer peaceful. It's loaded. Like we're both avoiding a conversation neither of us is ready to have. I haven't asked questions. I haven't made accusations. I still want to believe this is something we can fix, if I just hang on long enough, if I keep showing up. But lately, I've been wondering if I'm the only one who still thinks there's something here worth fixing. I've always believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt, especially someone you've built a life with, especially someone you love. But lately, I've been catching myself doing things I never imagined I'd do in this relationship. Not because I want to find something, but because I've started to wonder what I'm not seeing. And once that thought settles in your head, it's hard to shake. Last night, after Lena went to bed, I sat alone in the living room for a long time. The TV was on, but I couldn't tell you what was playing. I just stared at the blue glow on the wall, my mind looping through the last couple months. The subtle shifts, the odd excuses, the vanishing details she used to share freely. It's not about catching her in a lie. It's the absence of the things she used to give without being asked. There's a hollow space where her openness used to be. I found myself opening my laptop, typing questions into a blank search bar. How to tell if your spouse is pulling away. Signs of emotional distance in marriage. When to stop ignoring your gut. I didn't hit enter. I just sat there, staring at the blinking cursor. What did I even want the answers to tell me? That I'm overthinking? That I'm imagining something that isn't there? Or worse, that everything I'm feeling is exactly what it looks like? This morning, she left early. Earlier than usual. Said she was meeting a friend for breakfast. She didn't say who. I didn't ask. But after she left, I stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, trying to remember the last time she invited me to something like that. The last time I was a part of her spontaneous plans. It's not that I expect constant togetherness. We've always had a healthy balance of independence, but it's the quiet removal that unsettles me. Like I've been gradually pushed to the outer edge of her world without even noticing. I noticed she was wearing a different perfume today. Something floral, lighter than her usual. I asked, "New scent?" She paused before answering. "Oh yeah, just something I had in the drawer. Thought I'd switch it up." Then she kissed me on the cheek and walked out the door. And for the next 10 minutes, I stood in that exact spot, wondering why that moment, that small, meaningless interaction, made me feel like a stranger in my own kitchen. I haven't told her how I'm feeling. I don't know how to bring it up without sounding like I'm accusing her of something I can't even name. I don't want to start a fight. I don't want to break something just because I'm scared it's already cracked. But I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating like I usually do. I'm going through the motions of our life, while 100 questions play in the background like static. And today, for the first time, a thought crossed my mind that made my stomach sink. What if I come home one day and everything has already fallen apart? What if I'm the only one still trying to hold it together? It happened on a Wednesday. Nothing about that morning felt unusual. I kissed her goodbye as she left, same as always, and then logged on for work. Around noon, a client canceled our meeting, and I decided to take the rest of the day off. I figured I'd grab lunch, maybe clean up around the house, surprise Lena with her favorite takeout later. I remember thinking, maybe we just need more time together. That if I could get her to slow down, even just for a night, we could reconnect. I got home around 1:30. The house was quiet. Her car was in the driveway, which didn't surprise me. She was supposed to be working from home. I walked up the steps, balancing a bag of groceries in one hand and my keys in the other. I didn't even try to be quiet. I assumed she was on a work call or listening to a podcast, like she usually did. But as soon as I stepped inside, I felt it. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful, it's loaded. The blinds were drawn. The living room was untouched. I called out, "Lena?" No response. Something pulled at me. I can't explain it. Just an instinct. I set the groceries on the kitchen counter and walked down the hall, past the framed pictures, past the office door she rarely used anymore, until I reached our bedroom. The door was almost shut. I pushed it open, and there she was, in our bed, with him. I didn't know who he was at first. Just a man, shirtless, tangled in sheets that still had our scent. But then he turned, and my stomach dropped. I recognized him. I'd seen him once, years ago, in an old photo buried in a drawer. He was her ex, the man she used to call it chapter she was grateful to be done with. They both froze. Her face was flushed, hair a mess, mouth half open like she'd started to speak and forgot how. He sat up, startled, then silent. No one said a word. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. I just stared at her, really looked at her, and saw the truth I'd been trying not to name for weeks. She pulled the sheet over herself and said my name. Soft, like that would make this feel smaller. "It's not what it looks like," she said, breath shaky. That was the moment I felt something split in me. Not anger. Not yet. Just this heavy, clean break. Like I'd been holding a puzzle in my hands for months, and suddenly all the pieces fit together and made something I never wanted to see. I turned, walked down the hallway without a word. I heard her footsteps behind me. I heard her call out, "Wait, please." I didn't. I walked into the garage, sat down on the bench beside the tool rack, and stared at the wall. I don't know how long I sat there. 5 minutes? 10. Long enough for the shock to settle into something else, something colder. Then I stood up, and I knew exactly what I was going to do next. I didn't sleep that night. I spent the hours between sunset and dawn sitting at the kitchen table, lights off, just me and the ticking of the clock above the sink. Lena was gone when I came back inside. I don't know if she left on her own or because I'd told her, in the calmest voice I've ever used, that she needed to be out of the house immediately. "Take your things. Take him. Leave." That's all I said. No shouting. No questions. No begging her to explain. I think that's what shook her the most. She tried to speak. She even stepped toward me at one point, but I just held up my hand. And she stopped, then turned, dressed quickly, and left. The quiet in the house afterward didn't feel peaceful like it used to. It felt surgical, like the soul of the place had been removed. But I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I didn't drink. I just sat there, hour after hour, staring at nothing, my mind both empty and racing. Everything that had built up inside me over the past few months, the questions, the unease, the gaslighting I'd done to myself, it all burned out in that one moment in the doorway. There was nothing left to argue with. I saw her, with him, in the bed we bought together, on the sheets she picked out, in the home we made. By morning, I had made a decision. I was done, not just with her, with the version of myself that tolerated the distance, that waited patiently, that gave the benefit of the doubt long after it stopped being earned. I wasn't going to be the man who cried over her. I was going to be the man who took his life back, piece by piece. First, I changed the locks. Before anything else, I drove to the hardware store the moment it opened, picked up a new deadbolt and handle set, and installed it myself within the hour. By the time she tried to come back, around 10:30, the key in her hand was already useless. She knocked. I didn't answer. She called my name through the door. I stayed silent. I heard her pace, knock again, then mutter something I couldn't make out. A few minutes later, her car pulled away. That was the last time I saw her face. I spent the next 2 days boxing up her things. Methodically, room by room. Clothes, toiletries, shoes, books, photos, everything. I didn't leave anything behind. I even took down the framed pictures of us, the smiling vacation shots, the wedding photo, the one she loved from our anniversary trip, and I packed them with the same calm I used to hang them. I didn't smash anything, didn't burn it, just removed it, like scrubbing a house clean of mold. I left the boxes on the front porch that weekend with a message. You can pick these up on Sunday. After that, they'll be donated. Do not knock. Do not call. She tried anyway. Called me 6 times. Texted me long messages I didn't read. Even sent an email. Please let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. But I was done giving her space to rewrite the story. I saw the ending with my own eyes. No confusion. No questions left. You don't accidentally fall into bed with your ex. You don't lose control in your own house while your husband is out buying you groceries and thinking about your future. She made a choice. And now, so have I. The first few weeks after she was gone were harder than I expected. Not because I missed her, I didn't. Not the version of her I'd seen in that bed. What I missed was the shape of our life. The routines. The companionship. The ease of knowing someone so well that silence wasn't uncomfortable. Now, silence just echoed. But day by day, I started carving a new rhythm out of the quiet. I went room by room and changed things, not drastically, but intentionally. I painted the bedroom, bought a new bed frame, new sheets, donated the throw pillows she used to obsess over. I pulled down the photos we had hung in the hallway and replaced them with prints I'd always liked but never suggested, because they weren't her taste. The house started to feel like mine. Not ours. Just mine. And that wasn't sad, it was relief. Work became my anchor for a while. I buried myself in it, but not in a self-destructive way. It gave me structure, purpose. I started running again too, something I hadn't done consistently in years. I even started cooking real meals for myself, not out of obligation, but because I realized I enjoyed it. I'd forgotten that I liked taking care of things, even when no one else was watching. And then, without meaning to, I met someone. Her name is Erin. We met at a Saturday morning market. I was standing in line at the coffee stand, and she was behind me, reading a book and holding a pastry like it was going to disappear. We started talking about the coffee being overpriced, and the conversation just kept going. It was light, easy. She wasn't trying to impress me. She didn't ask personal questions right away. She just existed comfortably, and that in itself was enough to catch my attention. We've had lunch a couple times since then. Nothing heavy. We talk about movies, music, books. She has this relaxed presence, the kind that makes you feel like you can breathe deeper around her. I haven't told her much about what happened with Lena, not because I'm hiding it, but because I'm not ready to define myself by it anymore. Erin knows I was married. She knows it ended badly. That's enough for now. I don't know where it's going, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm not looking for someone to fill a gap or erase a memory. I'm just glad to feel something good again. To laugh. To sit across from someone and not feel like I'm waiting for a mask to drop. Healing hasn't been a straight line. Some nights are still heavy. Some mornings I wake up and have to remind myself that it really happened. But I'm not stuck in it anymore. I'm not living under the weight of questions I'll never get answers to. She made her choice, and I've made mine. I'm building something now, not with someone else, but with myself. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free. It's been 4 months since I found Lena in our bed with her ex. For months since I stood in our hallway and felt my entire life shift beneath my feet. You'd think something like that would leave you wrecked beyond repair, and maybe for a while, it does. But now, standing on the other side of it, I can say this with certainty: what broke me also freed me. I've stopped counting the days. I no longer check my phone expecting to see a message from her. I don't replay conversations or wonder what I missed. There was a time I wanted closure, some perfect line that would tie the whole story together and make sense of the betrayal. But I've realized there is no clean explanation for why someone you love chooses to lie, or how they can crawl back into a past that should have stayed closed. The truth is, I'll never fully understand why she did what she did. And I no longer need to. What I do understand now, and maybe this is the only real answer I'll ever get, is that peace doesn't come from making sense of someone else's choices. It comes from learning how to live in your own skin again, from reclaiming the quiet, from standing in a home that's yours alone and knowing you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. Life feels different now. Not lonelier, not colder, just quieter, more intentional. I spend more time reading. I take longer walks. I've reconnected with friends I'd let drift away during the years I spent trying to make my marriage feel like it used to. People have asked if I'm dating again, and I have. A little. Nothing serious yet, but I'm open. There's no desperation in it. No aching to be filled. Just curiosity. Hope, maybe. Erin, the woman I met at the market, we still talk. Sometimes we meet for lunch. Sometimes we just text about whatever we're reading. There's a lightness there I hadn't felt in years. I'm not trying to shape her into something. I'm just letting her be who she is. And for once, that feels like enough. I think the biggest shift is that I've stopped trying to control the story. For so long, I believed that if you worked hard enough, stayed loyal, showed up, love would be safe. Predictable. But love isn't a contract. It's not a guarantee. It's a choice you make every day, and sometimes, the person you're making it with stops making it back. She did, but I didn't. And that's what I'm holding on to now, the version of myself that still showed up, even when the ground was crumbling beneath me. The man who stayed kind, who stayed honest, who didn't retaliate with hate, even when he had every reason to. That's the part of me she couldn't touch. I don't know what comes next, but for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of that. I'm standing here, wide open, with nothing to hide and nothing to prove. She lost me, but I didn't lose myself.